So let's try to stick with page number. Oh no, sorry. The bad part of this is tomorrow's test. Hold on a second. Don't you worry though. I am a trained professional. What do we have? Sometimes that happens. You're on. This is what number? 7A, right? One can only hope it pops up momentarily. That's not it. I know it is. That's not where I wanted it. I wanted it here. Is this it? No, is this it?
No.
Is this it? Is this it? Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Hold on. Oh. That makes sense. We needed to do this, ladies and gentlemen. Drag and drop. Maybe not. Drag and drop.
Oh,
Let the countdown begin.
3, 2, 6, 1, 80, 100,
10,
180,
Okay. First page, number 1, Jackson.
do number 10.
Is that on page 1? Then yes, I can do
Graph the equation y equals x using a table. Decide whether the graph represents a function and whether it is linear or non-linear. So basically they ask you to do this, y equals negative x. When you do a table, that is the oldest, schoolist way to do it. That was where you do this. So you get to pick your x and y values. So y. And there's no rhyme or reason to your x ones other than to try to make it simple on you. So I always try to pick a couple, maybe -2, 0, and +2. You're putting those in for the letter x, so I would put a parenthesis so you don't get confused. If I put a -2 in for x, a -2 is a +2. If I put a 0 in for x, -0 is 0. If I put a +2 in for x, -2 is -2. So these are the coordinates that you just sketch on your graph. -2, 2, 0, 0, and what, +2, -2. And that's where this line came from. And then it asks you, does it represent a function? In which case you would say yes because of the vertical line test. And you take a whole bunch of vertical, go over here. And draw a whole bunch of vertical lines here. There's no way that thing ever crosses one more than once. And is it linear? Yes, straight line. You know, if you something like that, that would not be linear, but it's still a function. This is both a line and a function. Hence the answer, yes, and linear.
So would you say yes, that's function?
I would say yes, it's a function. As the book answered it, it was what? Yes, it's a function. What was the answer? Number 10 says, the graph represents a linear function. More, people, more. Let's move ahead here. And Kala.
Well, this is kind of a pointless question, but what's
No, I like those the best. Yes.
this thing, is this for x and this is the y?
No. This is the x-axis.
I get mixed up with the y.
It happens to the best of them. There should be a mnemonic device you can use for that. How about this? If you look at the y is made up of this vertical line. That's a vertical line.
What about x?
What's that?
What about x?
Well, just think of the y first. Don't think of the x. X doesn't work. Brandon? I would guess. Is that up here? Seven. Yeah, 7's a good one there. Mrs. Quinn is buying square tiles to cover her kitchen floor. The floor measures 10 feet by 15 feet, so the first thing you're going to do is draw her kitchen floor. It is 10 feet by 15 feet. And she's covering it with these little tiles that are 2.5 inches on the side. Now you've got an issue here in the sense that you're working with two different measurements. So at some point, you're gonna have to change them both to the same units. Okay, in which case I would say, I mean, do you want to change this into feet? Probably not, because 2.5 inches is how many feet? Yeah, you'd have to do a whole bunch of stuff here. So it's easier to change feet into inches. And you're gonna need to find out what the entire area of this floor is. You know that each square covers up that little piece of it, so you wanna know how many of these squares it's gonna take to cover that whole area. So you're gonna have to find the area of this and the area of that and divide it out. And I would suggest that you change these to inches right away. Right, Lucas?
Yeah.
The reason for that is, if you did how many square feet this is, it's a pretty easy calculation. Well, how many square feet is this? 10 times 15. It's 150 square feet. The problem is, when I change that to inches, a lot of people think, well, you just multiply by 12. No, you multiply by 12 if it's a straight line. If you're finding area, okay, you have to multiply it by 2 12s, because it's 12 and a 12. So you'd have to multiply this by 144 to change that into how many square inches that is. Which you could do, your choice is either to do that or to multiply them both by 12 right away and take 120 times 12 times 15, anybody? 180, I believe. You're either gonna have to multiply this together or multiply that together to find your thing. In which case, did somebody multiply this together and get this right? What is the answer to this? I don't have to do it. 0, 0, 0, put a 0 down, multiply by the 8, 16, 196, put 2 zeros down, 0, 120, 0, 0, 6, 2, 2. Did anybody get 22,600? That would be a yes or no response.
No.
No. Did I multiply wrong?
I didn't know you could I got 21,600.
I needed to make this into inches because that's what this is. So I multiplied this by 12. 10 times 12 is 120. I multiplied 15 by 12. It is 180. What do you mean, what?
I don't know.
What are we multiplying?
I got 21,600.
What's that?
What are we multiplying?
What are you multiplying? You are changing, because this is all in inches, you need this to be all in inches. This is 10 feet, and if I asked you 10 feet is how many inches,
Well, let's use
Just trying to
10
add it.
times 12.
And then you can do that.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, that's right, I did.
And you got 140.
what, to what do you want
Okay,
to
well,
say?
yeah, you
Yeah,
got
that's
that.
okay.
Woo!
Because that's 15 times 12.
You needed to change this into inches because this is in inches. So I multiplied 10 by 12 and got 120, I multiplied 15 by 12 and got 180. Those are my new dimensions that I'm using, and to find the area, I have to multiply 120 by 180.
Well, can't you just multiply it and do like 10 times 15 and then change that into?
Yes, but the problem, I already went over that, you get this, but the problem with that is most people think if I'm changing 150 square feet into inches, I just multiply that by 12, and that's not the case. Because this is feet squared, anytime you multiply, change area, you have to multiply by the same thing twice. You will get the wrong answer if I take 150 times 12. If you take 150 times 144, which is what 12 times 12 is, the same thing twice, you'll get the right same answer as we got over here. But like I said, why mess around with this when you can just change the dimensions right here and not have to worry about it anymore? So anyways, back to this thing. After my wrong multiplication, I got 21,600. I need to divide that by how much the area of these things are, which is 2.5 times 2.5, about 6.25. Yes? Nobody's jumping on that one. Did I multiply wrong again? Who said what? You need to find out the area of each little square that you're putting in this. And that is 2.5 times 2.5. Is that not 25 quarters, $6.25? Is it? Oh, do I have to do this? If I get the right answer, it's 125 and 500, 6.25.
Yeah, that is correct.
Thanks, Jack. Alright, So the question is, when I divide this out, am I gonna get a number that is, the question is this enough tiles to cover this whole floor? So you have to divide that out. If you get a number that is, if you get this number, it's fine, or something below that number, it's yes. If this comes out to be a bigger number, you're gonna need more tiles than you have there. So you sit down and do this, move the decimal 2 places, so you gotta do this. It doesn't go into that. How many times is 625 going to 2,160? At least we're at the 3 mark, which is what? 1875. Do some subtraction here. Bring down to 0. How many times is 625 going to 2,850? 4 times, which is what? 2,500, right? 0, 5, 3. Bring down another 0. How many times is 625 going to 3,500? Ooh, look at it, they're getting more crazy. Right now, it looks like we're going to, which is what? 25 times 5 is 125. 3125.
Yeah, bring that 0 again.
This is a 375.
And 6 times.
Yeah.
And then it would be 6 times. Actually, if you had any number as a remainder here at all, you know this can't be a 0. So you know this is not enough because you're going to need at least 3,451. You actually need more. So this is not enough.
50% chance of getting it right.
What's that?
There's a 50% chance of getting it right without.
You do have a 50% chance of getting it right, but you also have a 50% chance of getting it wrong. What?
So basically for the answer, all we need to put is no.
That's the only
yes.
question they asked you. Didn't ask you how many you needed. You said
Okay.
there were not enough. But again, going back to this, in your notes, change this right away. Don't wait till you get the area and then change it, because just like volume, if there's more than 12 cubic inches in a cubic foot. How many cubic inches would there be in a cubic foot? McShanks, how would I find the answer?
12 times 12 times.
Exactly. And we get stuck thinking that that's always the conversion, that to go from feet to inches, you just multiply by 12, okay? Or inches to feet, inches, yeah. But that's not the case. When you have 2 dimensions, you can't do that because you got 2 times. Well, most people don't have any questions, right?
It's on the second page.
Jackson Torah.
Can we do number of, number,
I'm not quite.
You did number 6.
You're gonna ask me for 11, Jackson. No, that's not on this page. Problem number 6. What should be your first thing, Johnny and I?
separate,
This is not an equation, by the way. No equal signs. You're just adding or subtracting stuff. What would you do? I would, because some of these has multiple signs in front of them, I would just change them so that there's only one sign. This is minus 5.76, that's fine, we're good with that. This is a minus minus, so in reality it's a plus 1.61. This one's just one sign. And this one is opposite signs, which makes it minus 4.26. It's at this point, ladies and gentlemen, if I were an 8th grade student, I would step back from the thing and think about what probably my answer is going to be close to. Okay? This is like a -5, a +1, a +1, and a -4. If you have a -5 and a -4, that's a -9. +1 is a -8, plus another one's a -7. Your answer should be somewhere in the 7 ballpark, in the -7. Okay, just as an estimate. It's going to be some goofy thing, but so starting, there's a couple different ways to do it, but this is probably the easiest. What do I have to do to put these 2 together? If they're opposite signs, you actually need to find their difference. Okay, even though you say, well, this is plus, well, if you owe somebody 5 and you have 1, you need to find the difference, and the difference is negative. So you're going to need to take 5.76, subtract 1.61, and your answer is going to be negative because the negative was a bigger number. You get 5, 1, you get negative 4.15. Same thing here. You have a -4 and like a +1. you still have, you're gonna have to subtract because they're opposite signs. So you go 0.97, and your answer's gonna be negative again, because this was negative. 0, 15, 8, 6, 3. Now I have a negative 3.68, and I'm combining that with a negative 4.26. When you add things that have the same, when two things have the same sign, you gotta do something wrong. 3 point what?
1.
3.8, that's what I had there, 3.18. See, I can blame my board on that, because it didn't write my 0 up there, I thought it was a 5. Okay, well, anytime you have the same signs and you're combining them, you add them together. If you're 3 in the hole and another 4 in the hole, it's gonna give you 7 something. So negative 3.18 and negative 4.26, negative 7.44 in the hole. Nicholas?
I multiplied the 1 by 100, then I divided by the answer.
Sure. Good with that. Another way you could do it, people, is you could put your two negatives, because of the commutative property of addition, and that's what you're really doing here. You could put your two negatives together first, put your two positives together, and then do one subtraction. Yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point, but that's up to you to figure out if that works for you. Anything else on this one? Oh, really? Let it be duly noted, I asked. There were only like 3 questions on it. Just 3 questions. Nobody has issues with something in words, whatever property that is. Let's just talk about this property here. You can help me out. How did you know that that is the, whatever property it is? I see parentheses there, and the first thing I think about is, well, that must be the associative property. Alright, but the thing with the associative property is what has to be with associative property. Rule number 1 in the associative property is the numbers have to be in the exact same order. 4, 11, 9, 4, 11, 9. And the parentheses just changed. That's not what happened here. Okay, what happened in this one? This one, oops, don't do it. That one there, those two numbers just traded places. Okay, the 4 and 11 just switched places, and when they move, that is the commutative. I always said commutative. Page 2 then. Page 2. Uh-oh, Zoom folder didn't work there. Nick Shanks?
How do you do 11?
Number 11. Where is 11? Must be on this page. Number 11, the first truck in a convoy.
Okay.
It's always easy to laugh when you're not doing it. Alright, the first truck in the convoy will carry 12 tons of dirt, while each additional truck will carry 8 tons of dirt. Write a rule to model that situation. Then use the rule to find out how many tons of dirt can be carried by 7 trucks. Let n represent the number of trucks, and let t represent the tons of dirt. So here's what I would write down. First of all, I would just say, okay, I'm going to make sure my n's are the number of trucks, and my t is tons of dirt. Okay, and then this is actually an addition sequence pattern thing. All right, and I would do this. If you had just one truck would give you what? How much dirt?
12.
The first truck will carry 12 tons of dirt. The second truck, and then every truck will carry 8 tons of dirt. So the second one will carry what?
80,
Well, but how many will you have? Another 8,
20,
so you'll end up with 20. The third truck you'll have
28.
28. The fourth truck you'll have
36.
36. So here's my pattern. My pattern is 12, 20, 28, I don't know why this ain't working, 36. Okay, that is my pattern. And then I would write down, remember the little formula that we used for patterns, addition sequences, which was what? A to the nth equals A to the first plus n minus 1 times d. Make sure you have that for your notes for tomorrow. That is that sequence pattern formula that we use. Now, if you notice, they didn't use the letter A and the letter, well, they did use the letter N. The letter N is the same thing. This N is the same as these N's, but our letter A is actually the letter T. So you can just substitute wherever there's an A, just put your letter T in for it. It's the same thing. Because T is the number of trucks, is the number of turns. I bet they did it on tension. So let's think about this now. What is, first of all, the letter D, change colors here. What is your common difference? Common difference equals adding 8, correct? And the letter N is, and the letter T, sub 1, is the first term. What was my first term? 12. So, writing this out, I get the, which one did we want to do? The 7th truck is going to equal the first truck, which was 12, plus, what term do I want? I want the 7th truck, right? Minus 1 times what was the common difference? 8. So this really is your formula that's going to give you your answer. You can tell me what the answer is because you can just keep doing this till you got the 7. It's not that difficult. But this is what they want you to do to show it there. So 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. 12 plus 48 is 60. The 7th truck should give you 60 tons. So there's really no reason you should get the problem wrong because you could just keep going till you got there. But they're asking for this formula. Right there. Take some on.
No, but
Yes.
I like for the same, like, my formula, I still got it right. I did T equals 8n plus 4.
8n.
8n.
810
8n
plus 4.
plus 4. I got 60.
But will that work for everything?
Well, because
Will that work for 9? Oh yeah. Wait. Plus what?
8n plus 4, because you started out.
Oh, because this one had 4 extra things. Yeah, that would work. That's fine. Okay.
I did T equals 12 plus 8n. I never
That's what this is.
Oh.
Wait. T equals 12
plus 8n.
plus 8n. Well, let's do that. T equals 12 plus 8n. So you said there were 7 trucks. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 plus 12 is not 60.
Why did 12 plus 4 be 8?
Well, that's not 8n though.
Oh, I don't know what I did.
Okay, so no, yours wouldn't work. You really did the same thing, except you have to remember it's 12 is already takes care of that first truck. That's why you take whatever, you subtract 1. If you would have subtracted 1, 8 minus 1 times, well, depends on what you said n was. N you'd have to say is how many tons of dirt. It should have been T. And that's your tons of dirt. Again, I would write just this little formula down. I might give you half credit for this and half credit for the right answer because you could have got the right answer just by doing it. And column.
I looked at how you did number 14.
And I haven't done the report yet.
Well, like,
So, but I do know this. Word of means, so maybe I read the wrong answer, because it's just 0.27 times 45. Maybe I read the wrong answer, because I wouldn't think you'd get this one wrong. 28, 31, 0, 90, 5, 1, 12.15, 2 decimal places.
reminded it.
It was your birthday yesterday, so I'm going to give you some slack. Shove him. Is that on the other side? 16, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, well, gladly do 16. One of my favorite problems in all the world. You don't justify in each step, we're kind of skip over that. First thing you did was what, Corinne?
I did 7B minus 7.
Okay, yeah. First thing you do is you look at each side of the equal sign and say, is there something I can combine? On the left side, no. 3b minus 8 is the simplified it's going to get. Over here, you get 7b minus 4b is 3b minus 2, correct? Next step is what, Lucas Spaniel?
You have to plus 8.
Okay, I'm going to add 8 over here, add 8 over here, and I end up with a 6. Now I need to somebody, John?
Minus 3B.
Okay, I need to get my b's to the other side, so I subtract 3b. I subtract 3b, and I get 0 b's equals 6. And here's where you have to be careful. A lot of people say, well, the answer is 0. The answer is not 0. Okay, you're asking somebody 0 times what number is 6, and 0 times 0 is 0. It's not 6. You have to kind of think about it like this. If I do like I normally do and divide by 0, and I take 6 and divide by 0, you can never can you divide by 0. You can never have a 0 on the bottom. Oh, the only time you can have a 0 on the bottom is if there's a 0 on top. Then it works out as whatever. It's all solutions or all real numbers or whatever. Okay. But if there's a 0 on the bottom and some other number on top, okay, it's no solution. You cannot do it. Because there is no number, no real number in the world you could ever multiply 0 by to get 6. So you have to watch for that when you do equations.
So that'll just be your answer.
No solution. Can't do it. That is your answer. Jonathan.
I just put a 0 with a dash through it. Does that work for no solution?
I don't know, is it?
I'm just saying that.
I think that doesn't mean it can't be 0. I don't know, I'll look it up, I can't remember. Did your dad tell you to put that in?
No, I
You came up with that one on your own? Yeah. Make it up?
No, I just thought maybe it's-
Well, I believe that's something where they call that's an empty set, or there's no answer to it, that's probably true. Is it?
It's not.
I don't see it there. It is not equal to. Other questions, Lauren?
Can you do number 20?
I love 20. No, I don't know what it is. Same, wait. Solving for n, ladies and gentlemen. Solving for n, is this a plus, I'm assuming? Okay, same rules apply, children. The first thing you want to do before you start solving for n is see if you can add any like terms on each side. In this case, no can do. So it stays 3m plus 2m minus 6 equals 4m plus n. And it's the same as if you were solving for any particular thing. You want to solve for n, so you want n to be the only thing on one side of the equation. So your first step is by adding and subtracting, you want to move everything that's not an n to that side, everything that is an n to this side. So I would move opposite of plus n is subtracting n. I subtract n, I end up with 2 n's. Are you with me? I wanted this 2m to get to the other side, so I do the opposite, add 2m. I add 2m to that, and it is 6m. Okay, I need this 6 to get to the other side too, so I add 6. It doesn't combine with any term, so it's 6 over there.
It's minus 2m plus 2m, so it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I put that there, but I didn't. Okay, so this is actually what, 2m?
Sorry.
This is plus 2m. Now, just like with any other equation, if I want to get this n by itself, how do I separate these two? Divide. And you need to, in this case, because 2 actually goes into both of those, Sometimes you can just leave it like this,
That's what I'm
but that's not simplified. We just talked about that sort of thing where you could factor a 2 out. So it might be better to think about it just doing this first. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Because 2 crosses off to leave you at m. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's what n equals m plus 3. If you had this with that slash under it, you were very close, just no cigar. It just needed to be simplified. Which we just talked about. Not too long ago. Big Shanks?
I thought it had to be multiplication before you cross off.
Wisdom.
What do you mean multiplication?
Multiplication on the top.
Right, but Nick's gonna force my hand here. I had this, Nick, 2n equals 2m plus 6, right? Okay, I divide by 2, I divide by 2. Nick is right, I can't just pull this out. But what I'm supposed to do when I have this is I need to factor. What can I take out of both of these? A 2. Reverse distributive property gives me an m plus 3. And now, since these are both factors of each other, I can cross this off with that, and I'm left with that m plus 3, which is that m plus 3. You're right, but that is. Jackson Torak!
You do number 17.
I already did that one, didn't I? Just checking. So Jackson, what do I have to do first?
Well,
Again, the first step is always to simplify what you can on each side. What can I do to this side? You can't simplify the 50, that's for sure.
use distributive property.
And what do I get when I do the distributive property?
12a
12a,
plus b.
correct? Now I'm still simplifying because I have 2 terms that have a's in them. I put them together, it is
14a
14a plus 8.
subtract b.
Subtract 8.
22.
So now I have 14a equals 42.
And you divide it and you get 3.
I divide and I get what?
3.
I get 42 divided by 14. Yeah, you're going to get 3. Is that the answer?
Yeah, it is.
Where did you go astray there, Jackson?
No, I just wanted to know if I did it the way that you did it. It's a
You did or didn't?
I did.
Well, I hope you feel reassured. Lucas?
19.
You did that one, didn't you?
No.
Anybody know what the first thing I'm gonna tell you to do is? And this is what most people don't wanna do, but I'm telling you, your life will be so much better. Okay, every letter gets a parenthesis. So, parenthesis, big parenthesis, which is already there, 3, parenthesis for the P, minus 2, little parenthesis, and then big parenthesis.
There's minus.
Minus, sorry, P, parenthesis, Q, parenthesis. Alright, now for every P I put 1/2, which is 1/2. 1/2. They made this tough on you a little bit. 1/2. For every Q, you put 1/4. Did I do something wrong again? Alright. Okay, now please, every time somebody sees this now, they think that it's distributive property. Okay, you don't have to do that because these two can be put together. So I need to do this first. Actually, I need to do all of this first, and then I'm going to subtract whatever I get over here. Let's do that first. I'm going to subtract, what is that? 1/2 times 1/4 is, I'm going to subtract 1/8 from whatever I get over here. So 3 1/2 minus 2 1/4.
Like 3 times
No,
1.
no. Oh, I'm sorry. It is. You know what? This has not been my best day. Multiplying this, I get 3/2 minus 1/2, right? 2/4, 3/2. I know most of you think I'm perfect. Sorry to like burst your bubbles there. 3/2 minus 1/2 is 2/2, which is 1, so this parenthesis is 1. Times 1/2 is 1/2. And then 1/2 minus 1/8, which is 4/8 minus 1/8. And you end up with 3/8. What do I get? What half?
The minus 1/2 when you do 3/2.
Well, if I have 3/2 and I take one of those halves away, 3 minus 1 is 2.
I know, but from doing 3.5 minus 2.
Wait, where?
Like, it says up there 3.5 minus 2 and 1/4. How
Right.
do you get that?
3 times 1/2, 3 times 1 is 3 over 2, 1 times 2. 2 times 1/4 is 2 over 1 times that, which is 2/4, it's the same as 1/2. So it's going to be 3/2 minus 1/2, which is 2/2, which is 1. Yes, Mr. Rice.
Can we go back to number 7?
Oh, a questionable one is always McKay. What's my question?
I did it like 2 times
What did you get when you distributed property? Did you get 12a plus 8? 4 times 3a, 4 times 2. That's where people usually go wrong. You forgot the 2? C.
Can we do 18?
Number 18. You have the square root of 77. Okay, and say that's a irrational number because it's not going to work out. But they want to know what number, what whole number, what integer, what positive or negative number is square root of 77 closest to. Okay, so you have to know the perfect squares, which are what squares actually work out, or square roots. Square root of 1 works out because it is 1, correct? Square root of, what's the next one? 4 works out, it's 2. Square root, what equals the square root of 3? 9. What equals the square root of 4 is 16. What equals 5? 5. What equals 6? You don't have to go through all these, I'm just trying to. 49 is 7. 64 is 8, I'm getting closer. And 81 is 9. I know that the square root of 77 falls between these two square roots, Sage. So I know my answer has to fall between these two answers, which is 8 and 9. Now which one would is 77 closer to 64 or is it closer to 81? That's the question you have to ask. Since 77 is closer to 81, it's going to be closest to 9 as an answer, as opposed to. And there's no easy way to do that. Jackson,
What was the answer for number 19 again?
I believe it was 3/8. Is that what you got?
No. Like, it's confusing. You know how you got.
Alright, here we go, Jackson. I am going to. When confusion strikes, the best thing to do is do it big. Because what happens, Jackson, and I don't want to speak negatively of you, but when it comes to neatness and accuracy, sometimes we're a little lax. So let me write this out here. P, 3p minus 2q minus pq. First step. Okay, p equals 1/2, q equals 1/4, right?
Yeah.
So in big one, we're gonna redo all this here. P, really big parenthesis, 3 times p minus 2q, really big parenthesis, minus p times q. I'm gonna fill in the blanks now. So far so good, right?
Yep.
P is 1/2, p is 1/2, p is 1/2, and q is 1/4. Now, can we do the simplest part first just to get it out of the way, Jackson? What is this going to give me? What's 1/4 times 1/2? Okay, so I have a minus 1/8 here. This seems to be where most of the confusion comes from. Okay? I'm gonna put my 1/2 out here. Inside this big parenthesis, I have to figure out what 3 times 3 over 1 times 1 over 2, that's this first part, which is what? I guess I should put a parenthesis there. What is 3 over 1 times 1 over 2?
3 over 2.
Right, so this is 3/2. And from that, I'm taking whatever 2 over 1 times 1 over 4 is.
I'll use 2 over 4, which is 1/2.
Okay, so I'm taking 3/2 minus 1/2, and that answer is getting multiplied by this 1/2 over here. Hopefully I have some more room here. I do. Still got this minus 1/8 over here hanging on. So 3/2 minus 1/2 is, 3 minus 1 is
3 minus 1 is 2.
2 over 2, and 2 over 2 is the same as 1. So this whole thing gives me 1, which I'm going to multiply by 1/2. Now 1 times anything is itself, so this whole side over here ends up being 1/2. I now have 1/2 minus 1/8. I'm going to do it up and down, 1/2 minus 1/8. Common denominator is 8. This is 1/8, this is 4/8. 4/8 minus 1/8, Jackson? What?
3
3/8.
8. Put 1/8 times.
What's that?
How about the 1/8 minus 1? I put 1/8 times half minus 1/2.
No can do because the commutative property is not a property of subtraction. Only addition. However, in reality, it is because Lucas Spaniel, as you'll grow to find out, there is no such thing as subtraction, there's only adding negatives. John will tell you that if you ever wake up. Mrs. Nair, if you're watching this, your son right now is very tired. He is listening. He's doing a very good job of listening. Any other ones? Jackson says one more.
15.
Did we do 15 already?
Yes.
We did?
Yeah.
Jackson, somebody said we did 15. They sometimes lie. Oh, 15 will be easy.
I wrote it wrong somewhere.
Jackson, I'm just gonna ask you one question. Anytime you have a fraction in front of a letter and you want to solve it, what do?
You do 4 3.
Right, it's just flip and multiply both sides. Or multiply by the reciprocal. So this is 4/3, this is 4/3. This cross cancels, so you're left with just the x. You can do this any way you want. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 over 3 is 8.
Thank you.
If you have other ones,